Imagine a narrow, muddy street. It's nighttime, and the cold wind carries the scent of smoke and frying fat. A flickering lantern hangs from a wooden post. Somewhere a dog barks once, and then goes quiet. You're walking slowly past timber-framed houses, their rooftops huddled close together like whispering neighbors. A low voice calls out, "Hot pie! Fresh pie!" You stop. There, under the dim glow of a torch, an old woman is pulling something from a blackened iron pan. A meat pie. Steam rises from its crust. You take it, bite in, and suddenly you're tasting the medieval version of junk food. In the Middle Ages, fast food didn't come wrapped in paper or served with fries. But it was there, in the alleys and markets, sizzling in pans, stacked in baskets, sold by voices echoing in foggy mornings. It was greasy, it was comforting, it was sometimes dangerous, and it was absolutely beloved. People think of medieval food as dull, porridge, gruel, hard bread. And yes, much of it was. But just like today, people craved flavor. They wanted something hot, something indulgent, something a little bad for them. Especially after working all day in fields, forges, or kitchens, one of the most common cheap snacks was the humble meat pie. Made with mystery meat, pigeon, rabbit, squirrel, or whatever could be caught, the pie was a perfect street food. The crust acted as a container, keeping the meat warm. But hygiene? That was a gamble. Sometimes the meat was fresh, sometimes it wasn't. You never really knew. If you were lucky enough to be in Italy during the 12th or 13th century, you might find a different treat, frictelli. These were early versions of fried dough, little twisted ribbons of flour fried, in lard and soaked in honey. Imagine funnel cake, but stickier and denser. Perfect for fairs, saints' festivals, and cold evenings. In France, sellers wandered streets with trays of warm cheese tarts. In England, hot eels were sold by the handful. Yes, eels. Cut, boiled, and served in a thick, peppery sauce. They were cheap, full of protein, and easy to catch from the River Thames. Some dishes were stranger. In certain parts of Europe, especially rural areas, deep-fried mice were considered a snack. Cleaned, seasoned, and fried until crispy. Farmers and poor families treated them as a kind of countryside delicacy. It sounds horrifying now, but back then, meat was meat. Children had their favorites too. At fairs, they could buy candied nuts or sugar-coated almonds, sometimes flavored with rosewater or cinnamon. If they were very lucky, they'd get a piece of marchpane, an early version of marzipan made from ground almonds and sugar, molded into shapes like flowers or castles. It was more art than food, but sweet enough to make a child's eyes widen. In colder regions, roasted chestnuts were everywhere. Sold from carts, warm and nutty, they filled the streets with their smoky scent. Travelers ate them by the handful as they walked home through the snow. Cheap, simple filling, a medieval winter snack, and then there was pottage. It was the everyday food, thick stew made of grains, peas, leeks, and maybe a little pork if you were lucky. But for special nights, some people turned their boring pottage into something indulgent. They'd add eggs, cheese, spices, and butter, whatever they could spare. The result was a creamy, rich, savory meal. Comfort food before the term existed. Spices were the secret ingredient of medieval indulgence. If you could get your hands on pepper, cinnamon, nutmeg, or clove, you could turn even stale bread into something exciting. In wealthier cities, street vendors would sell hot spiced wine in wooden cups. It warmed your hands and your chest. A medieval version of mulled wine, or maybe their answer to hot chocolate. Drinks had their own role in medieval snacking. Ale and mead were the most common. Mead was made from fermented honey and water, sometimes flavored with herbs. It was sweet, strong, and served at festivals. Ale was more common, slightly sour, barely alcoholic, and safer than water. Even children drank it. Cold ale with hot pie, that was a meal. And then there were fritters. Every region had its version. Vegetables dipped in batter and fried, sometimes with bits of meat. Think of onion rings or tempura, but with cabbage or parsnip. They were crispy, salty, and just greasy enough to make your fingers shiny. Bread was everywhere, of course, but not all bread was equal. The poor had coarse loaves made with barley and oats, often hard enough to chip a tooth. The rich had fine. White bread, soft and fluffy. But anyone could enjoy a good trench toast, a slice of stale bread fried in animal fat, sprinkled with sugar or cinnamon. Sweet, crunchy, and just decadent enough to count as dessert. Holidays brought out the most indulgent treats. On feast days, cooks made golden fritters dusted with sugar, stuffed dates soaked in wine, or even gingerbread, though it was dense, spicy, and chewy, not soft like ours. Nobles might enjoy sugar sculptures or molded jelly, while peasants might share sweetened milk pudding baked in a clay pot. These foods weren't everyday meals. They were little joys, rewards for long days, for holy days, or just for surviving another week, and most of them were made and sold by women. They ran street. Stalls outside their homes, selling pies, cakes, cheese tarts, and fried snacks. In a world where women had few rights, food gave them a voice and a livelihood. The streets of a medieval town smelled of food. Not just one kind, but many. Spices, smoke, roasted meat, fried dough. You could follow your nose and find something. Warm to eat, something wrapped in cloth or passed to you on a wooden plate. People didn't eat fast food because it was fast. They ate it because it made them feel good, just like we do. It was cheap, it was filling, and it gave them a break from the harshness of life. Imagine a cold stone alley lit by torchlight. You're wrapped in a cloak, and your hands are cold. But in your palm is a warm fig tart, sticky, sweet, and wrapped in flaky pastry. You take a bite, and for a moment the world is softer. That's what medieval junk food was like. Not mass-produced, not delivered in boxes, but handmade, heartfelt, and full of strange, delightful flavors. Each bite told a story of hunger, of celebration, of love, of survival. And now the streets grow quiet. The fires dim, the stalls are packed away. The last piece of fried cheese is eaten. Somewhere, in the corner of a tavern, a musician plays a slow tune. The world exhales, close. Your eyes, imagine the echo of boots on cobblestone, the rustle of cloaks, the soft crackle of roasting nuts. You are full and warm, and the night is gentle. Sleep well, traveler. Tomorrow there will be more stories, and maybe another hot pie waiting for you.